If you have a cat, you already know this plant better than almost any other. You have watched it turn a dignified animal into a purring, rolling fool on the living room floor. You keep a little of it in a drawer. You have worked it into a scratching post and shaken it out of a plastic bag from the pet aisle. You know exactly what it does to the creature on your rug. But here is what you probably never knew. That same plant, the one you buy without a second thought for the animal, was for nearly 2,000 years one of the most trusted medicines in the human home. Long before it was a toy for your cat, it was a daily tea for you. It was the cup a tired farmer's wife brewed at the end of a long day, the one that settled a heavy stomach after supper and calmed a restless mind before sleep. We handed it to the cats, and somewhere along the way, we forgot we had ever needed it ourselves. So how does a remedy that healers reached for across 19 centuries end up as a cheap joke you buy for your kitten? Welcome to Nature's Lost Vault. This story does not begin with the cat. It begins in the kitchen gardens of medieval Europe, with a modest grey-green plant the old herbalists simply called nep. You know it by another name. The plant is catnip. Botanists call it Nepeta Cataria. The name itself is ancient. Nepeta traces back to Nepeta, a town in Italy where the plant once grew in abundance, and Cataria comes straight from the Latin word for cat. Its history with people is far older and far stranger than its history with cats. The written record reaches back almost 2,000 years. In the 1st century, the Greek physician Dioscorides described the plant in his great work De Materia Medica, the medical reference that guided Europe for the next 1,500 years. He wrote about it as a remedy for the stomach and for fevers. By the 11th century, it turns up in a poetic herbal called De Viribus Herbarum, prized for calming the nerves and easing the body toward sleep. Then, in 1597, the English botanist John Gerard gave it a full entry in his Herball under the heading of nip or catmint. A generation later, the physician Nicholas Culpeper folded it into his own catalogue of household cures, recommending it for the stomach, for bruises, and for the aches of a winter cold. It was one of the staple plants of the medieval monastery gardens, which were the closest thing that age had to a pharmacy, and it kept its place in the standard herbals right through to Maude Grieve's celebrated A Modern Herbal in 1931. Here is the detail almost everyone has lost. Long before black tea arrived from China, catnip was one of the everyday teas of England and France. The French even had a name for it, herbe aux chats. Country families harvested the leaves and flowering tops through the summer and brewed them all winter. A weak cup for a restless child. A stronger one, taken hot, to break a fever by bringing on a sweat. And in the evening, a mild mint-scented infusion to loosen a tight stomach and let a working body finally rest. This was not fringe folk magic. This was the ordinary medicine cabinet of the everyday home, growing for free right outside the kitchen door. When the first colonists crossed the Atlantic, catnip came with them. Tucked among the seeds and cuttings, a pioneer family could not imagine keeping house without. It took to this continent completely, spreading along the trails and roadsides of a new country. And the people already living here took notice. Several Native American nations adopted it into their own medicine, using it much the way the Europeans did, to calm the nerves and to relax the cramping and spasms of a troubled stomach. Within a generation or two, this European herb was growing wild from one coast toward the other. Useful and entirely free. So what happened to it? 2 shifts, and neither of them was the plant failing. The first was money. Starting in the 1600s, the great trading companies began pouring imported tea into Europe. The East India Company built an empire on it. Black tea from China, and later from India, arrived by the shipload, heavily promoted, heavily taxed, and enormously profitable. By the 1700s, tea had become the national drink of Britain, and the government leaned hard on the tax it brought in. A homegrown herb you dried in your own attic paid the treasury nothing. An imported leaf you had to buy again every single week made fortunes. Within a few generations, the free cup from the garden was quietly pushed aside by the cup you paid for. That shift seemed small at the time. It was not. The second thing took longer, and it is almost funny. As catnip slipped out of the human medicine chest, it kept exactly one loyal audience: the cats. By the 20th century, an entire pet industry had grown up around that single trick: the rolling, blissed-out cat. Catnip was rebranded, completely and permanently, as a thing for animals. The stuffed toys, the treats, the plastic bags lining the pet store wall. A plant that healers had trusted for 19 centuries became, in the public mind, a cheap joke you buy for your kitten. The version most of us grew up with is not the full picture. And now the science has caught up to what those old herbalists were describing. In 1941, a chemist named Samuel McIlvaine at the University of Wisconsin isolated the compound behind the plant's effects. He called it Nepeta. It is the same oil that sends cats tumbling, and in a human being, it does something far gentler. Modern researchers have found that Nepeta acts on the GABA system in the brain, the same calming pathway that many prescription sedatives are built to target. That is why herbalists have long compared a quiet cup of catnip to a mild, low dose of valerian. It nudges the nervous system toward rest instead of forcing it. In the laboratory, extracts of the plant lengthen sleeping time in mice and ease anxious behavior in the standard anxiety tests. A study published in 2010 in the journal Psychology and Neuroscience found antidepressant-like effects in mice given catnip. In plain terms, the animals were calmer and steadier. The stomach story holds up just as well. Catnip is what pharmacologists call a carminative and an antispasmodic. Its volatile oil relaxes the smooth muscle lining the gut, which is exactly what eases cramping, trapped gas, and the tight, sour feeling after a heavy meal. That is not folklore. It is a measurable action on the tissue, the same oil doing the same relaxing work, whether it is settling your nerves or settling your stomach. The old cottage remedy was right on both counts, through a mechanism we can now name and measure. The best part is how little it asks of you. But there is one thing worth getting right. There are around 250 species in the Nepeta family, and the tidy, lilac-flowered catmint you see in garden centers, the one the bees love, is not the medicinal one. That is an ornamental cousin. The plant with the real history is Nepeta Cataria itself, a taller, rangier, gray-green plant with soft, downy leaves and small white flowers. A little unruly, a little plain. It is the one the cats truly lose their minds over, and it is the one you want if you mean to make the old tea. You can find it yourself, too. Look along old fence lines and disturbed ground for a plant that stands 2 to 3 feet tall, with the square stem that marks the mint family, soft heart-shaped leaves that are pale and downy underneath, and that unmistakable minty scent when you crush a leaf between your fingers. It grows easily. It is a hardy perennial, and it will thrive on a sunny corner and poor soil, coming back thicker every year with no help from you. You do not even need a garden. A single plant in a pot on a bright windowsill will keep you in evening tea all season. There is an old English rhyme gardeners still repeat about how eager the cats are to find it. If you set it, the cats will eat it. If you sow it, the cats won't know it. Harvest the leaves and flowering tops in midsummer, when the oils are strongest, and dry them in a shaded, airy spot. Use the tops, not the root. Maude Grieve noted 100 years ago that the root can be overstimulating, which is the opposite of what you want at the end of the day, so the calming cup comes from the leaf and flower. From there it is simply tea. A spoonful of the dried herb, hot water just off the boil, and a saucer set over the cup so the aromatic oils do not float away with the steam. Let it steep for around 10 minutes, no longer, since catnip turns bitter when it is pushed too hard. What you get is a soft, minty, faintly green cup with none of the caffeine of the imported tea that replaced it. Sip it in the evening, after a heavy meal, when your stomach feels tight and your mind will not slow down. That is the exact moment it was made for. The same cup a farmer's wife reached for 400 years ago, growing free at the edge of your own yard right now. So tonight, when the cat finds that little cloth toy and rolls across the floor without a care in the world, you will know the other half of the story. That the plant making such a happy fool of your cat was, for centuries, one of the most trusted comforts in the human home. The cat never forgot what it was for. We were simply the ones who did. If this vault changed how you see the plants in your own yard, subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault and stay close. The next vault opens soon.